Welcome to the Jaybefaunt channel. I am your host, James Fauntleroy. So good to see all of you here on this beautiful Tuesday afternoon. Just to let you guys know, I am also part of Revolutionary Blackout Network, so you can find me there on Sundays for the JB Show and Thursdays for the Savvy and JB Show. Today, it is September 24th, 2024. It is 2 p.m. Where are you at? You're here with me. So good to see all of you here with me right now. Just to let you guys know, if you guys have not, please go ahead and like, share, and subscribe. That also helps me out. I appreciate it deeply, very much, so that we can inform, inspire, encourage, and push people out there in order to do more for their communities. This is why you tune in to this channel. So thank you so very much. If you guys have not already, you guys can actually go to my Substack at jaybefaunt.substack.com. This gives you email notifications whenever I go live, upload clips, or write any articles, so that you guys don't have to rely on the notifications from the YouTube, right? You guys can actually get it straight into your email instead, to let you guys know whenever I go live, just like you guys did about 20 minutes ago. So there you have that. Also, just to say an aside and hello to everybody who's joining in. Of course, I do have a guest, and so I do want to be respectful of their time, but a good hello to hearty hello to every single one of you who's joining me today. Now, what are we talking about on this show? This is going to be a big one. We're going to be talking about a few things. So later in the show, we're going to be talking about Disney. Disney Springs second-class workers. So we're going to be talking about this. It's a entertainment hub, a nightclub hub, a hub that has restaurants. It's not necessarily in Disney, but it's on Disney property. So we're going to be talking about the workers there feeling like they're second-class citizens. That's going to be a really good one we're going to get into. Then on our primary main point today, we're going to be talking about C-sections for profit. Why are hospitals making money off of Black mothers? I think this is something that we really need to dive deep into, because, to be honest with you, this is egregious and this is indicative of the system that we live in. So I think that's really important to get into. But first, what we're going to be doing is we're going to actually be having an interview with candidate for Congress in Wisconsin, Mr. Chester Todd, who is running and joining me right now, running in Wisconsin's 1st District. Welcome, Mr. Chester, to the Jaybefaunt channel.
And I thank you for having me. Now, like I said before, it's very rare that an 82-year-old OG gets a chance to expound on subjects and for younger people to hear. I really thank you for having me.
Look, it's a privilege and an honor to have you here to talk to you about your candidacy for Congress. One of the things that I actually wanted to ask you first is the why. Why are you running for Congress in the 1st District in Wisconsin?
Well, number one, I am tired of watching every 4 years the Democratic Party come into the Black, brown, disenfranchised white communities, throw the promises and the falsity around, get the votes, the political capital, and then once they're in, we get no receipt stamp paid in full. Now, how I got to this point, I've been through, 82 years I've been through. And I have had a life of how can I put it? Let me go back and just tell you how I got to where I'm at. At the age of 17, I came out. Number one, my parents moved to Wisconsin in 1951. I was 9 years old. By the time 17, I went into the United States Navy to escape the racism that existed even here in Racine, which still exists. This is Racine at this particular time that we're talking Racine, Wisconsin, located in the southeastern section of the state, is the second worst city for Black residency in the United States. It's been within the top 5 in that category since 2017. This is also the worst state for Black residency. We lock up more Blacks per capita than any state in the union or in the country. So anyway, to play it backwards, I went in the Navy at 17, which was 1958, to escape the racism, and found out that I run right into it. I was on a ship with 11 Black people out of 600. I was the youngest person on the ship, and I got called that word every day for 2 years. I come out, I was very bitter, very bitter. I wouldn't speak to white people. I was just bitter. But I was also a drug addict. Drugs were the only way I could cope with it when I was in the Navy. And then once I got out, I couldn't shake the addiction. So for the next 30 years, I was an addict. I went to prison for 2 years. I got out of prison. I was still addicted. And then by the grace of God, on April 4th, 1989, at 11:30 in the morning, something hit me and said, you got, it's do or die. So I went to treatment for 7 months. I come out, went back and got a high school equivalency. 11 years later, I had a master's degree. I've been working hard. I've always been an activist, even under the addiction. I was a functional addict, but I just, So I'll play it forward. 1990, I said I had to let go of the Democratic Party. They brought in a Southerner for a presidential candidate, and I just couldn't see voting for Bill. I had did my research on him, found out that for the 11 years that he was governor of Arkansas, the infant mortality rate in the lower class communities was that of a third world country. And so I knew right then, while everyone else was saying, oh, he blows a saxophone, so he must be Black, you didn't fool me. My parents had taught me a long time ago the power of discernment. If you look over at the grass and you see it moving, but you don't see anything, you know there's a snake down there in the grass somewhere, and you better beware. So I started looking for other entities, political entities to vote for. Socialists, federalists, God knows not the libertarians, but that probably at that time would have been better for me than anything. And then one day on YouTube, I happened to see a lady being interviewed under the Green Party. And I said, what the heck's the Green Party? And I listened to her interview, Dr. Stein, and I said, hey, that's where I'm going. I voted Green up until Obama years. Then, of course, I got caught up in that thing, hey, a Black brother and a man of my age, of course, wanted to see a Black president. And I got to admit, I voted 2 times for him, okay? Am I sorry? No, that's just the way things go. But now we're faced with the same dilemma. Do I vote for this young lady today who seemed to be following the same plan that the Democrats have been playing on us for years? What they've been doing to the Black people, it irks you, and I'm quite sure you feel this. When you go to a circus and you see an elephant tied over here with a chain. And you say, well, why don't the elephant just kick the chain aside? Because it could break the chain. But no one knows that the elephant was raised from a baby tied to a tree. And so it doesn't know it can get away. So here we are as Black people, we're tied to the tree. The Democrats could come out and slap us in our face and we'd still vote for them. I do not understand it. I do not understand it. And I mean no offense to my brothers and sisters. God knows I've been Black 82 years and I love my people. And I also love the brown folk. I love the disenfranchised whites. When Jill Stein and I on March 21st of this year did an event here in Racine, Jill Stein, a prominent socialist, person who has ran for many offices, took time out of her campaign to come to Racine, Wisconsin, maybe 70,000 people. Can't get Kamala here. She won't come. She comes to Madison. She goes to Eau Claire. She goes to all the white districts, basically, but she don't come where her people are, air quotes, as you say. You understand? So, and wouldn't it make sense for her to come to the second worst city for Black people in the United States? Hell, the governor of the state don't even come. He's a Democrat. He won't even come here. It's very rare. And then Biden came to this city right across the street from my house and wouldn't allow people from the neighborhood to come into the center. This is the truth. One thing about me, I'm never going to bring you any falsity at all. I stand on the truth. And so one of my main objectives is to get Black people to see, and the brown, and as I said, disenfranchised whites. If you hear what Jill Stein and I and other Green Party people are saying, we believe in building this society up from the bottom, building it up from the bottom. Sure, and we're talking socialism. Why shouldn't you and I own part of this society? There's so many of us that don't own any parts of this society except on election day. And then we're this and that. 63% of the people in this country can't hardly afford to put food on their table. Yeah. The crying shame is 5 years ago, and hey, I just have to be fair. My family and I had 2 freezer fulls of food. We only went to the store to restock to keep it up above. I now have maybe a week's worth of food. Now, of course, the Democratic administration say, well, it's not our fault. Yeah, but you promised me things are going to be better, and things are not better. I'm not saying the Republicans would make it better, but I'm saying if you come to me as your main stakeholder, Black is your main stakeholder. Brown will soon be, but Black is right now. The Democratic Party cannot move 1 inch without us. But we don't understand that. Everybody else in the world understands that, but we don't understand it. We don't understand. We go out and give it up without asking for anything in return.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to go off on a rant, but
look, I'm gonna be honest with you. If rants were paintings, this would be a mosaic. So I appreciate it. So full disclosure to everybody that's watching, I am co-press director for the Jill Stein 2024 campaign. So if you guys feel like there is a bias, there is, okay? I'm just gonna let y'all know. Just like everybody else has a bias, like I said in my announcement, I also have a bias, but my bias is to the poor and working poor people in this country, as well as the disenfranchised people in the world, especially in the global south. So if you don't like that bias, it's fine, but I have a bias towards the poor and disenfranchised. So one of my first questions is I would like to get into the policies of your campaign. As far as your campaign issues, they're somewhat limited, but one of the things I wanted to go off first was, okay, in the order of progression, under your issues page, it says the Palestine massacre. So why did you list this one first?
Because I'm a humanist, because I am a socialist, and because we believe in justice. As you said, Jill, and let me just jump back a second about Jill. I wish each individual could meet Jill Stein. What a loving person. Now, when I sat back one day recently and I seen about, I don't know how many young children's bodies laid out on the ground with white sheets over them. And then the media person was saying, well, the IDF says these are just collateral damage. No human being. You see, the tags they put on human beings, this administration, this country, this society, and others put tags on people, illegal aliens, collateral damage, and all of that. And we're talking about human beings. Yeah. Why I went to Palestine? I tell you this, if it was the other way around, I'd still have that in my heart. I don't want to see any humans just used as fodder, and it seems like for the media, that's all that is, fodder for news. So yeah, my heart goes out to the Palestinians. The other thing is this, and I get criticized, and especially by a lot of my brothers and sisters for my interest in the Palestinian genocide. Apartheid. That word means a lot to me, because if you came through the years that I have came through and looked at South Africa and seen what happened there, and there, when we as Black people outnumbered the oppressor 15-1, and then we see these people who don't control their own water supply, their own power supply. They can't leave the country on the other end. They're blocked from, this is ridiculous. And to see, I said this in the first meeting with Jill to the audience. I never voted for anyone to put blood on my hand by using my taxpayers' dollars to kill innocent people. Now, let's go another step further. This is capitalism at work. This is what this is. You take 2,000-pound bombs, and we're giving them away to Israel to use as weapons against Hamas, not really to destroy a whole brown race. It's what it's really about. Each one of these bombs, when detonated, creates a 50-foot deep crater, and it kills and destroys anything within 4 football fields around it. No one deserves to live in that fear. Just think, I got 29 grandchildren and 20 great-grandchildren. I can't imagine how I would feel watching them being used as collateral damage.
Wow. That's deep. One of the things that has recently happened as well is the issue of the detonating of pagers and walkie-talkies in Lebanon. As far as the state of Israel, they have been committing terrorist acts in Lebanon as well as in Gaza. And so, there's going to be people who would push back and try to downplay the resistance of different groups, whether they be in Lebanon with, in regards to Hezbollah, whether it be Hamas, which in reality, Hamas is not the only resistance group in Palestine. There's 16, 17 other different resistance groups as well. There are other resistance groups in Palestine that are also there are more sectarian, that are non-religious, that a lot of people don't realize. As far as how you would vote legislatively, would you? And I think I pretty much know the answer to this question, but I just want to hear your take on it. But would you vote for a arms embargo to Israel in order to save lives and to force a ceasefire?
Immediately, if not sooner, would I cast a vote for that. And I would also demand that we start looking for a solution to make either move Israel. Now, yeah, I know that sounds drastic, but you're sitting on land that really don't belong to you. The other thing is give free Palestine from the river to the sea. CNN can't fire me like they did Lamont. They can't fire me. Listen, as I said before, and I know people are going to disagree, this is part of white supremacy. I don't care what anyone say. This is global white supremacy. It's also what's the word? A continuance of global capitalism, which triggers this type of behavior. See, capitalism, and just to simplify it, for each one of those bombs that we give Israel, those bombs have to be replaced. So the assembly line that builds these bombs, who you think owns them? I don't. You don't. Somebody up there in that 1% from getting rich. So war is economy. Economy is war. It's capitalism fuels this. I'm not saying that it's the only system or the only political entity or social construct that fuels war, but someone's getting rich. No war exists, especially from us, from our society, without people getting rich. I didn't, like I said, I didn't start college until I was in my 50s. And my one professor, the one that I admired the most, one of the ones I admired the most, he pointed out to me, he says, if you go back in history to World War I, World War II, he said, and you look at who made the ammunition, and you say, well, there was an American company making the ammunition. Well, who made the ammunition for the enemy? Who made the rubber tracks and the rubber tires for the vehicles? So when we're talking about global economy, it existed a long time ago, far as the rich, the rich. It's so, at 50 years old, I think I was ready to learn. I wasn't ready before that, Although I had a third-year college level reading capacity at the age of 13, but that was just learning. But it wasn't learning like I did once I got 50, you know. And man, let me tell you, I wish the average brother and sister just knew what I have learned. It's not nothing to do this. It's simply to say, when you're watching the news, you have to see what they're doing to your mind.
Absolutely. And thank you very much for that well thought out answer. As an aside, when it comes to the resistance, I have no business telling a group of people who are oppressed how to resist their oppressor. I feel the same way. If, how do I tell, for instance, how do I tell Nat Turner that, oh, you're not doing it the right way?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
I don't have any business telling the indigenous people of this land how to resist the European colonialists who were stealing their land. I don't have any business telling them that.
And
I don't have business to tell the Haitian people how to resist the French.
Right. You just made a great point. A great point. Number one, God bless the Green Party. We are the only ones that are calling for reparations for Native Americans and Black people. And we're calling, we're not like, now, I heard Sister Harris say a few weeks ago in an interview with a young Black interviewer, he said, well, about reparations. Well, we're going to start a commission and a committee, but her last words were, and Butch Ware picked this up. I didn't know anyone else picked it up. She said, am I going to do anything that benefit Black only? No. Now, I'm telling you, it's recorded. So the first thing my mind went back to was, well, out of all the contributions that we have made, can't we get one victory? Just one? Can we get one? My Lord. Yeah. So I kind of feel like Brother Trump, well, you was this, then you was that, now you want to be this. What are you? Because we can't tell. We can't tell. But I'm already hip to the game.
Yeah.
And so are my 29 grandkids. And if God grant me enough time, my great grandkids will know. I raised no fools. I got 9 daughters, the wife and I, and a son. None of them go stupid. You're not going to pass none of this across them at all. There was another point, and I think I pulled a Biden point.
Oh, trust me, you are way miles and miles ahead of creepy, handsy, creepy Joseph. So you're good. One of the things that I also, because I do remember Kamala Harris talking about the reparations and saying, oh, well, I'm not just going to do anything just for Black people. And the thing is as far as, reparations, I think the call is from Black Americans is lineage-based reparations for American descendants of slavery, right?
Yeah,
ADOS. Yes, of course. And so, and if you go, the race route, then that, would go against, I think, the 14th Amendment. But if you go the lineage route, then that actually has a legal basis for to be able to go through that route. With that being said, I also think that it is a cop-out for someone like Kamala Harris to say, oh, we need to do a study. Yeah. Because the thing is that studies have already been done, to an exhaustion. You have people like Dr. Sandy Darity that wrote the book From Here to Equality. And it's already everything that you need to know about passing it is done. All you got to do really is just pass it. But the problem is that I don't see, besides third parties, I have to give credit to people like Claudia de la Cruz, Dr. Cornel West, and Dr. Joe Stein, in the Green Party. I don't see anybody else actually talking about, okay, the studies have already been done. We're going to consult and have a meeting with people like Dr. Sandy Darity. And then we are on day one, we're going to fight to actually pass reparations legislation, including cash payments to freedmen, to American descendants of slaves. I don't see that. And of course, there's always somebody that's introducing bills on the floor, right? I think it was John Conyers that was introducing a bill, but I think it was probably a bill to study. But as far as a reparations bill to actually start off with cash payment as well as other different benefits for freedmen, would you also be willing to either vote or co-sponsor or write legislation that would, do this on a federal level?
That you already know that answer. You already know that answer. And the sooner the better we get to cash. And I'm sorry, that sounds crass, but
no, it's right.
Yeah.
Let's be real.
Well, what we'll do is we'll put some in education. No, give me the cash. Give me my 40 acres and a mule, and I'll plow my own success. I don't need you planning for me. The education, hey, you already screwed that up. Let me give you a point about education, if I may flip. In this city that I live in, our school system expels K4 kids. That's fourth grade. I mean, that's 4-year-olds. They expel 4-year-olds.
I'm sorry. I thought you said excel. You mean expel, like kick them out of school?
Yeah. But like here again, and I know I flipped on you, but that just shows. And no one, even the NAACP branch, which now I'm sorry, and here I'm really probably going to upset some people. To me, the NAACP is an antiquated organization. I'm sorry. People can jump on me all they want to while we sing Kumbaya and we shall overcome. The white supremacists have gotten into the doctor's office, into Wall Street, all over the place, and we're still walking around talking about we shall overcome, and they got a song saying you ain't going nowhere, except to where we send you. And I'd be surprised if they don't deport us along with, hey, they did it in the Trail of Tears, and you never know what they're going to do with us. But yes, I would support legislation. Number one, I wouldn't want to mess around with it. And you named John Conyers, and we go back to some of the rest of the older blacks back in the day when we were in Congress. What happened to those type of people? When I see Hakeem, who was a hero of mine, when he jumped up on Tim Scott that time in Congress, and then I see him say, well, Israel has a right to... wait, what's going on? The money get to you? The what? And then I see AOC, who she can't make up her mind what side she's on. I guess who puts some more cash out gets the vote. I don't know. But these are things, and I'm quite sure you realize this. You're a remarkable young man. God, why can't we, as the main stakeholders of this party, why can't we see this? Now, I have a theory on this.
Okay.
Our leaders know it. Our leaders know it. Our black leaders know what's going on. They know the game. They know the game. You don't get that far up the ladder. Charlie wouldn't let you up there if you didn't know it. All right. So they know it, but they don't portray it to the mass of people. They carry the same bull down that they're taught from their master on down here. And so people say, oh, well, Chester Todd, the congressman, he said such and such a thing. So that's the way it is. But Chester didn't tell you the truth. He didn't tell you the truth of the matter. And so our mass, although we have a lot of educated young people, they're not politically astute. And then it's also the economics of the situation, the money and the fame, so I'm making 7 figures. So why should I give a damn?
That's also a really good point, because, you have a lot of people who are especially more well-off, more affluent, and they will say, well, the system worked for me, so all we got to do is make minor tweaks to the system and we're good. And then they look at people like myself or many of us who are poor or working poor and say, well, you just didn't work hard enough, or you just didn't do good enough in life. That's on you. When in reality, it is not an individual issue. It is a systemic issue. The thing is, it's like they always want to talk about systemic issues when it comes to race, but when it comes to economics, they say, well, you just have to pull yourself up by your bootstraps. And while not realizing that it's actually both intertwined,
And you're right. And there's another danger that's lurking for us as Black people.
Mm-hmm.
The sense of loyalty. And you brought it to me just now. And a few weeks ago, I was talking to a young man, one of my neighbors. He's 19. And I said, well, gang, and don't get me wrong, I worked as a gang counselor, worked with counsel many a gang member here in our city and surrounding area. And I'm not always anti-gang as long as it follows the original things that they wanted to do with the gangs. But anyway, this young man, I said, well, let me ask you a question. If you would have been on the scene when George had a knee in his neck, what would you have done? Nothing. I wouldn't have done anything. That would have been his business. I said, okay. I said, because it's not my day, not back in the day, when my guys and me would have rushed the cop and there'd been 3 or 4 of us shot, So to make this matter worse, I went to one of my grandsons, 20, 21 years old, asked the same question. He says, oh, I wouldn't have got into that. I said, but so it seems like the system has manipulated us to the point that we no longer care about each other. And see, this professor I told you about, my sociology professor, told me, if it don't make dollars, it don't make sense. And this is what's going on today. Now, God bless, and I'm going to throw this out. God bless someone like Kyrie Irving. All right. Here's a young man, make money and give it away. But we got people down here don't make 1/10 of his money and not willing to be loyal to the next person. I will do anything in the world for you. It's not only because you're Black. It's because you're a human being in need. I'm going to help you. I've been that way all my life, even in my deepest drugs of my drug addiction. Here, you can have some of this. I might be giving you some poison, but at least I thought I was doing right. at that time. It's devastating. And for an old head like me, at 82, to see all loyalty destroyed among my people. Back in my day, and it's not in my day, I understand that, but your word was your bond. If I told you I'd be there at 5 o'clock, I'd be there at 5 minutes to 5. If I told you I was going to help you, all of that has been wiped out. And it's not by accident, it's been wiped out by design. When we see the Section 8 laws that says, well, yes, young lady, you can house you and your 3 kids here, but can't be no man there. Well, can't have no man there. If you do, then we're gonna have to up your rent and take away your Section 8 privilege. That's the same thing they did in the 60s when I was coming up. When I met my first wife, I've been married 3 times. The first 2, I don't think could put up with me that much. But when I met my first wife in 1960, she had 3 boys, and she was on the welfare. I couldn't have a pair of socks at that house, a set of shoes, or nothing. No evidence of a man living there. And they could come to your house at any time and search it. And then if there was any evidence of a man living there or being there, period, you were off the welfare. See, so that broke up that nucleus of the family. They broke that up. Now today, what we have in our Black community, especially in our Black community, where 70%, 7 out of 10 Black children are born to a single parent in this nation. That is the basis to it. That's the foundation of our destruction. It's done by design. Believe me, it's done by design. And it's designed by the very people that we give our votes to. Mm-hmm. We have to wake up. We have to wake up. Someone has to wake up the mass. Someone must wake them up. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But as you know, once you start trying to spread that message, you get criticized, ostracized, all of that. Mm-hmm. This is war. And I don't mean to be so dramatic, but this is a war. It's a psychological war. And we're not playing in it. We're playing dumb.
Yeah. Mr. Chester, one of the things I also wanted to ask you, and this is actually in conjunction with what you just said about housing. Mm-hmm. And I think this would also assist with, keeping families together. Of course, one of the policies on Dr. Joe Stein's platform is what we call a housing first strategy, which means that housing is actually guaranteed to you as a person. Mm-hmm. As somebody that knows what it's like to be homeless as a child, mm-hmm. It is a extremely difficult situation to be in. I've seen homeless kids waiting for the bus, and by homeless I mean kids living in motels. Mm-hmm. So if you're living in a motel under duress, if you're living in shacked up with another family, under duress, you're homeless. Mm-hmm. And so as far as legislation for housing first, public housing to be built so that we end homelessness, are those policies that you support as well?
Yes, definitely. I myself have worked in the worst zip code in Wisconsin, 53206, that's in Milwaukee. Everyone in that area is homeless, poor, and whatever. And I worked 4 years running a family resource center there. And I can tell you, your heart when you go home. You can't leave the job at the job. Yes, there should be housing for everyone. See, that's the part of the socialistic society that we want to build. When you leave your house every morning to go to work, you would actually be going to your company. You would have stock in that company. Therefore, you'd have stock in this country. Do you understand that? And I know you do, but do the people in the audience understand you have no stock? You have no stock in this country. You might think you do, but you don't. All the stock is up there. One man got $258 billion. The next one got $196 billion. One family's worth $156 billion. That's your money. That's our money. And then they talk about, well, let's let it trickle down. The only thing that's going to trickle down from those up there, and I'm not being personal with them, but that category of people, that classification, the only thing that's going to trickle down is more misery, more hunger, and more issues. And by the way, the issues. Well, I don't like you because you're light-skinned. Well, I don't like you because you're black, or you're lesbian. And they keep all this smoke screen right in front of us. We can't see, and they keep making money. They even make money off of the things I just announced. They make money. Listen, don't make dollars, it don't make sense. Every issue in this society right now, you can trace back to money. That's all you got. See, and if we could get people to start thinking that way, to say, before I criticize this young man, before I criticize this classification of people, let me see where it started. And I bet you go back and it's a capitalistic beginning to it.
Yeah, it's just like, it's just like the issue regarding immigration. It's like people say, well, they're taking all of our jobs. I'm like, no, your job is actually being given away to people who are more desperate, and they're desperate because they're fleeing a country that has been destabilized by our own government. So, and they're coming here because they rather be behind the barrel of a gun instead of being in front of the barrel of a gun. And so, of course, the people at the top, the corporate parasites, and their lackeys who are in our government, the Democrats and Republicans, are going to give them a little bit more than they give us, so that there's resentment, so that we remain divided, so that we hate the people who are coming across the border.
Yes.
Or it could be somebody that's born with testicles and wearing a dress and reading to kids. And the thing is, like, oh my God, they're reading to kids. So what? How is that person in a dress? How are they making it so that you have to pay more in rent?
Right. Exactly.
That don't make no damn sense. It's just like, why are we so focused on people wanting to transition when in reality it's your boss that's stiffing you in your pay?
Yes.
It's not them. Yes. It's just like, let them do what they do. As long as they're not harming anybody, cool. You do you. But my thing is, it's like, I want to go after the people who are actually literally harming us, which are the people in $5,000 in Armani suits and sitting in boardrooms. Those are the people who actually deserve our ire, not some person who's selling makeup at a Macy's, making $16 an hour and can barely afford rent, and they got 5 roommates.
You're right. But and also there's another group, those who represent them, to get the little money that trickles down to them to make them feel they belong. And there is where the sister, and I'm sorry, the sister, Hakeem, and some of the rest of them who look like us, it is their responsibility, because they know this is happening, and they could tell me and my grandkids what is really happening. When we read in the book, it says that all the fame and glory and money that you gather here, you cannot take it to the grave with you. And so that's it.
Yep.
That's it.
Yep. I think it was, because forgive me, because I used to be evangelical for 20 years, but I think it was 1 Timothy 6:9-10 says the love of money is the root of all sorts of injurious things.
Yes.
And some have been led astray from the faith and have stabbed themselves all over many pains.
Yes.
Right. But the thing is that they're not stabbing just themselves all over many pains. They're stabbing all of us too.
All of us too. Yeah.
You know, and I mean, just even from because, you know, a lot of people, especially a lot of the Republican, the religious right, they like to quote the Bible. And it's like, well, you guys have a deep love for money and you're harming your fellow citizens constantly, day in and day out.
Yeah.
And it's like, when is it going to stop? Because you guys keep complaining about the illegals coming in, but yet you guys are also still cheering on somebody like Donald Trump or a Kamala Harris that will place sanctions on Venezuela, causing Venezuelans to suffer, and then they flee Venezuela to come to our border in order to get exploited. To get exploited by our own companies and corporations, so that the corporations will look at us and go, yeah, you guys want unions? Now we're going to go with these people and we're going to stiff them.
Right.
And we're going to have them work for us instead.
And these people marched 3,000 miles through jungles.
Yeah.
You know, that alone should be enough to tell the average American, wait a minute, these people wouldn't have walked that far for nothing. And how come they walked that far?
Yeah, that's a good question.
What pushed them out of their country? See, the problem is, and with everything you say, I agree with. You said one of the issues with the class division in our country is you reach a certain class where no one looks at the problem in depth; they look at the surface,
the symptoms.
Yeah, that's it. You know, and then we let it go. Well, I'll leave it to Congressman so-and-so to solve it. Hell, he's the one that caused it. I mean, you know. Yeah, he caused it. You know, it's, I don't know. At 82, and I tell you how you asked the question at the beginning. My campaign manager, Mr. Pete Karras, I think you have talked to Pete, a wonderful man, wonderful. And we were on the phone one day. I had it on speaker. My wife was sitting across the room. And he says, why don't you run for Congress? I said, oh, hell, I'm 82. And she says, my wife's 58. She says, why not? What you got to lose? And I said, well, you're right. And I'm thinking to myself, all these years, I write for a publication, online publication. I write a lot of my articles on Facebook, and they're all about what you and I have discussed today. And I said, well, if I'm not willing to stand up and back up what I write about, then I'm one of them. I'm one of them. See, this thing is easy. Yeah, I can talk all the crap I want to. Am I willing to stand up and be a man, to be a human being, to say, no, I'm going to try my little bit to stop this. What we need in this society, I'm going to say it out loud. People are going to say this or that. There's got to be a better way of governance than this. People have to own part of the system that they live under. And I'd ask people to get educated and stop thinking that every time they hear the word socialism, they automatically go to communism and some weird type of society where you just get dictated over. That's not what the problem is. Hell, we're damn near in the dictatorship now. And if you really realize it, if people realize it, you do not run your life. Capitalism runs your life.
Yeah.
You're told what to do, when to do it, and how to do it.
Yep. Actually, something happened. Hopefully he'll come back in. Not exactly sure what happened. But while he's working on getting back in. Let me see. So one of the things that I also want to bring up, and hopefully he'll be able to speak to this when he comes back in, is I want to share this. Oh, there you go.
Yeah, I hit a button.
That's okay. It's all right. So one of the things I actually wanted to share, because you're going to have a lot of people who are going to say, well, if you get in Congress, you'll be the only one. And what are you going to do? Having one Green Party member in Congress, how is that really going to help? How would you push back against that?
Everything has a starting point. Everything has a starting point. For instance, in New Jersey, there's 13 Greens on the ballot.
Yes, there are.
You know, we're there. We're not going anywhere. I hope that these other parties understand we are not going anywhere. We're the largest political party in the world, and we have been sustained throughout. Other parties have come and gone. Other third parties are come and gone. We're still here, and we're going to be here. And if I'm standing in Congress, I'm going to preach from high heaven socialistic agendas, you know, for the people. For the people. That'll be about the best I can do until the next one come along. I already have a protege and a mentee who at 23 years old will follow me after this election. We already got him lined up. That's my next door neighbor. His name is Xavier Golden. Please look out for that name in the future, because he's a tremendous young man like you, you know, and at 23 years old, this young man he's God's gift. And hey, once he blow up, he's going to blow up, you know, and he has no issue saying I'm Mr. Todd's protege. He has no problem with that, because he knows I would never lead him down the wrong path. You know, anyone that knows me know that I talk the truth. I speak the truth, whether it hurts you or not, whether it hurts me or not. I own up to my shortcomings that I've had in my past. I try to be transparent. You know, have I always been a good guy? No, I have not. No, I have not. And I don't try to justify it. It's just that's the way it was. But I came out by the grace of God on this end. And for me, I sometimes ask God, why me? Why am I the only one out of my group left? You know?
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the reasons why I wanted to bring this up is because I put this tweet out, say about a week ago. And so I think this is important for people to keep in mind. I said, for people interested in Dr. Jill Stein and Dr. Butch Ware, if Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema are enough to hold back legislation or affect legislation in the Senate, then what can we do with 2 to 4 Green senators? Remind you guys, I interviewed a candidate for senator for the Green Party last week. A small group of Republican Freedom Caucus members forced a vote for Speaker against Kevin McCarthy. It doesn't take much for Greens to get a small group in the House and have a caucus to cause change for people's agenda. I encourage you to vote Green down ballot, because the same platform is shared throughout and can make a big difference. Can you please speak to that a little bit as well, Mr. Chester, about you being able, if you and a few other Green Party members were sent to Congress, would you force a vote on particular pieces of legislation? For instance, of course, Dr. Jill Stein said she would be pushing for a $25 an hour minimum wage, or a housing first position, or a national rent control. These are some of the policy positions that she's for, and I'm assuming that you're for.
Yes.
So would you be willing to force a vote to stop the House in order to get these things a floor vote at the very least.
Yes, because I think once people get just a touch of what Jill and myself, or Dr. Stein and myself and Brother Ware, who, by the way, is another very, very intelligent young man. Once people get just a taste of what we're trying to do, and they see that they're included, for once in their life, they're included in this Main Street. You're living on Main Street with the rest of the people, then I think it'll catch on. I think it'll catch on like a grass fire, and I'd be willing to do that. And I'll tell you, I don't know of anything that I disagree with when Jill says, whatever she says. She is a remarkable individual. Just to say she's a remarkable woman does her discredit. She is a remarkable human being to withstand all the criticism that she gets. AOC, how dare her come out and I didn't know this, but when she first started, it was Greens behind her on her campaign staff.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And now she
turned her back.
Isn't that something?
Yeah.
That shows that manipulation, that capitalistic manipulation, and that goes on in Congress, in the Senate, and in our society. When people begin to realize, when poor people, I'm waiting, oh God, if I could live 50 more years to see the revolution, because it's going to happen. It's got to. See, the one thing about capitalism, it has a built-in self-destructive mechanism. Eventually, it will self-destruct. Anything built on a rotten foundation implodes. That's what we're seeing in this country now. Donald Trump is the fuse of the implosion. But unfortunately, there's nothing to stop it out, because the party on the other side is looking for the same thing that the Republicans are looking for: power and money. That's all they want. One is covert, one is overt. And we need to keep that in mind.
Yeah. Also, I will also want to go into this question regarding healthcare. So, as far as we know, you have the access word, right? People who are in the Democratic Party, we want people to have access to healthcare. They'll say healthcare is a human right, but they'll use the weasel access word. Yeah. And I put it to people like this: I have access to go buy a Maserati. I have access to buy a Bentley, right? But can I afford it? And the thing is that even if they say it's affordable is a subjective word. Affordable for whom?
Yes.
With that being said, as far as a healthcare system, do you support single-payer healthcare, or do you support expanding the Affordable Care Act? What is your position on health?
Expanding the Affordable Care Act, but here's something that we all need to know, and I think this sums it up in a nutshell. How much money since October 6th have we given Israel? Billions of dollars. The average person don't understand since God, there I go again.
So
yeah, I'm sorry, I'm back.
Okay.
Okay, I'm very sorry. Being old, I watch myself. But since 1995, Israel has had universal health care. I don't know why it's echoing, but who's paying for that? We are paying for their health care system, and we don't even have it.
Just 1 second. I think you came into the studio twice, so I'm gonna
Oh,
kick this other side out.
okay.
Hopefully, it doesn't kick you out. Hang on. Oh, okay, you should be good now.
Okay. Whoa. Wait.
You're fine. I can still see you and hear you.
Oh, you can? Okay.
Mhm.
Can you still? All right.
Yes.
Yeah. So since 1995, Israel has had universal health care. It's mandatory,
hmm
and it's your tax dollar, and mine. I just came back in again.
That's okay.
Okay. Go ahead, kick me out. I'm not that that much of an egotist. I got to see myself.
Let me do this. Hang on.
Two of me.
All right. Okay. I'm not sure what's going on, but yeah.
Okay.
Should be good now.
There we go. Yeah. So to me, that summed it up in a nutshell. Then also look at the Ukrainians. We're paying their Social Security and pensions.
Yeah.
So we're.
So would that mean either like a Medicare for all or an expand Obamacare? What is your overall position?
Obamacare, and certainly I don't know. It's kind of deep for me to understand this. But Medicare for all, what's wrong with that?
That's where it's single payer healthcare, and it is given to everybody. There's, you don't have to work for it, and it is basically paid healthcare, free at the point of service.
Well, that shouldn't we have that as Americans?
Yeah. I mean, it would be nice if we had that. Of course, I personally prefer a nationalized healthcare system, an NHS style, just like they have in the UK.
Okay.
One of the reasons why I feel that would be even better is because then you take the profit motive out of healthcare, period, not just out of health insurance, but you would make it so that no doctor, no hospital, clinics, or medical facility can operate at a for-profit basis, and they are all essentially community ran. And so therefore it is everybody gets healthcare free at the point of service, and so you don't have the hospitals trying to make extra money off of the backs of the people, whether it be through the government or through privately charging other people. This is why I personally would like to see a fully nationalized healthcare system, but a single payer healthcare system is a step in the right direction.
And then so we go talking a little socialistic again, and people have to understand, once we have investment in our own lives, our own survival, government will be better. If the mass governs, see this thing, democracy, the majority rules. Oh, wait a minute. What about those that were in the minority? Do they get a say so? And that's what's missing in our society. Those and then suddenly the thing that we're looking at is those who have the say so in this society are those with the money. With the money. And it's always been that way. Take a look. I'll tell anyone in the audience, go to YouTube, punch in The Men Who Made America, and watch that series. You will then understand, if you have one eye and a horse sense, you will understand where you are in this society. The men who built America.
Yeah.
And you will find out that this has been a game all along, played dead in your face.
Yep.
And you were blindfolded.
One thing that I do want to share right before I let you go is there was something that I found through Open Secrets about your opponent, Brian Stale. style.
Mm-hmm.
So here he is on Open Secrets, and he's also part of the House Financial Services Committee. So as far as campaign committee fundraising in the 2023-2024 from the leadership, top contributors. One of the first ones is individuals from Blackstone Group. Now, I know this is not a PAC, but individuals from Blackstone Group donated $40,000 to your opponent. And if anybody knows, Blackstone, not to be confused with BlackRock, but Blackstone is one of those, financial institutions that is also been buying up a lot of private homes, and private equity has been buying up, homes and increasing the rent rates as well as the rates for, buying houses within this country. And so I think that, him receiving money from individuals who are part of Blackstone really is indicative of just the type of rot that we have within the U.S. government between both Republicans and Democrats. And this person is a Republican.
Yes.
So it just tells you like everything you need to know.
Oh, and it trickles down even into your court systems and your individual communities. In this community here, if you get evicted, they don't need even going to court because they're going to side with the landlord. And you might not even have a floor in the building, and they still will side with the landlord. See, and it's a great point you made, being poor in this country. And I got news for the middle class. They're poor too. They just don't realize it. No, they just don't realize it. They're poor.
No. I agree. If you're making $50,000-$60,000 a year, you're poor.
You're poor. You're poor. I got a couple of daughters that make that kind of money. And it's hard. It's hard for them, It's hard for them. And $60,000, me coming from the age I came from, when I made 40, I thought I was doing on top of the world,
Yeah.
Now I can't imagine that. And they look at me like I'm crazy when I say, well, wait a minute, you're making $60,000 a year. So that's not much. And it isn't. It isn't.
Yeah, I got to tell you, I'll be honest with you, you're not okay unless you're making above 120,000.
Yes.
You're not actually middle class until you hit above 120.
Isn't that something?
Yeah, it is that bad, Mr. Chester. I'm 40 years old. It is that bad.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
so
God help us.
Yeah.
God help us.
But that's one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on, was to show people an option outside of the Democratic Republican parties, an option where let's say, for instance, we get you in Congress, and then we also get some of those members who are running in New Jersey in Congress. There's many other different ones running across the country. If we get 7-8 of you, that's basically it. Yeah. That could be enough to stop things in the House and force them to actually put in legislation for the poor and working people. And you notice I didn't say middle class, because the thing is, everybody's focused on, the middle class. No. Because the middle class is also workers too. The thing is like people always want to focus on the middle, but they don't never want to focus on the poor workers.
Right.
And by the way, if you are, anybody within the sound of my voice who's making under $100,000 a year, number one, you are poor.
You're poor.
And that's okay. It's not okay for you to be poor, but it's okay to identify as that, because it is not a issue on you. It is not a slight against you. It is not a individual failing. It is a systemic failing. It is not your fault. Even if you're homeless, it is not your fault. So with that being said, you still can register to vote. You still can, if you're in Wisconsin and in the first district, you can still vote for Chester Todd.
Yes.
If you are in an area where you have a Green Party member, you can still vote for them, and then have a real squad
Yes.
A real squad,
A real squad. Yes.
Yeah. That you guys that will actually force a vote, for you. And so that's the thing I think a lot of people don't take into consideration.
You just said what I was going to end with.
Okay, cool.
It is not about Chester Todd. It's about the party and the system that we want to create. We want to recreate this system to where it supports the average individual, the individualism of each person, of each human being that live in this society must be recognized. And we will do that. And I appreciate being on your show and meeting you. God, man, you're refreshing. It's refreshing to see young Black people who have a humanistic point of view. Let me say that.
Thank you. That means a lot. Also, just to let you guys know, what's going to be next for you as far as volunteers and as far as support for the campaign. Where can they go in order to help you further so that you can win?
Please go to chestertodd.org and donate time, money, and just vote for me. And therefore, you're voting for the party. I'm often asked, why did you wait till you're 82 years old? And my answer is, you could have done the same. But don't worry about it. I'm going to carry this. I'm going to carry this type of feeling for the oppressed until the day I take my last breath. And that's my word and my promise to you on the G. That's it.
All right. Thank you so very much, Mr. Chester Todd. Appreciate it. And look, it has been a privilege to have you on. Please do not be a stranger.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Goodbye.
All right. Bye-bye. All right, folks. So what do you guys think? I think that was a great conversation. You guys have the information out there with some of the policy positions of somebody like Mr. Chester Todd, who's running in Wisconsin's 1st District for Congress. If you guys would like to, I put his link in the chat as well for you guys so that you guys can also see that. I also would recommend, if you guys have any family, friends, colleagues that are in Wisconsin, let them know that Mr. Chester is also running, and let them know that these are the policy positions that he's running on. Look, a $25 an hour minimum wage, housing guarantee for all, including the housing first position. Also, a single-payer healthcare system that would mean that people do not have to have healthcare through their jobs. He wants to also end the war and end the genocide that's going on in Gaza and help free Palestine. And of course, there's many other different ones, like, for instance, reparations for freedmen. So I think this is very important. If you guys would like to, you guys can always go to his website at chestertodd.org. So you guys have that in there as well. So thank you very much for that. Go ahead and give the stream a like. Appreciate it very much. Before we get into the comments for the chat, just wanted to give a shout out to the patrons on Patreon. For without you guys, I would not be able to do this work. You guys make this happen. You guys make this possible. So thank you from the top and bottom of my heart. Here are the tiers if you're interested. So we have Mega Jaybefaunters, Super Duper Jaybefaunters, Super Jaybefaunters, Jaybefaunters, Comrade, Solidarity, and JB members. And I just want to give a huge shout out and thank you to new members. We have Jim Phillips and Eric Schechter. So thank you so very much for becoming members of the channel. It means the most. Thank you. Also, by the way, in addition to, and furthermore, my channel is demonetized. So if you like to support the channel, you can support via Patreon or PayPal. Those are linked in the description below. So let's go to the chat. Say hellos, replies, critiques, whatever you want. All right, so let's go. First off, we have Roger Meadow saying, drop in a chat early. Sorry, my dude. Missed the show today and attending my aunt's funeral. I will check the show out later. Mom at 93 is the last of her 5 siblings. My condolences, and, you know, my heart is with you. Please take time to, please take time to mourn. Please take time and hold space for those sad feelings. And look, I'm there for you, Raj. Just, I know that's rough, man, but we're here for you. Good to see you. Jacqueline says, hey, everyone. We have Lauren coming in saying, waving at us, saying hello. All right. We have Zoe coming in saying, hello, peoples. Hello, Zoe. We have Bryce coming in saying, welcome, Chester, Todd, morning, JB, and everyone in chat. All right. We have Radical Education says, good day, everyone. Yep. Good to see you. Jacqueline says, how many people will vote for Harris? Not because they agree with her policies, whatever those are, but because they're excited that she will be the first woman president. Some people are going to just identity, and some people are, kind of thinking, well, we at least want to have a woman president, whereas it's like at the expense of whom, though? It's just like, if I can go back in time, if people can go back in time and think about, well, Obama, electing him, what a lot of people have changed their minds if they can go back in time. I think a lot of people would. I think a lot of people would have instead voted for someone who was outside of duopoly. You also had people, you had Democrats that were anti-war, that didn't get really any type of real serious coverage that would have actually curbed, what was going on here in the United States. And some people who are running outside duopoly that probably should have gotten some real serious consideration back in 2008. But of course, that glitter of that melanated man that's coming in, who was Barack Obama, a lot of people were very super excited about it. Even me, even though I wasn't voting at the time, I was kind of excited, like low key. But now that I see who he is and how he has governed, if I can go back in time, and tell people who are voting that he ain't it, I definitely would have did that. But I hope that one of my things that I'm actually happy about is a lot of people, particularly a lot of Black women, are not buying it. The only thing that makes me kind of sad is that some Black women are looking at Donald Trump and they're going from one side of duopoly to the other side of duopoly. And it's like, ma'am, that ain't it either, because he's going to fool you too. And so I just hope that, they wake up and they leave the duopoly altogether. That's my only hope. But fortunately, there's a lot of people, particularly a lot of Black men and women, that are also waking up and leaving the duopoly. And I'm glad, because they see the two-party system for what it really is. That's just a way to keep people in a box, But thank you very much for that. H. Lokil says, hello all, good to see ya. Lady Alex in the chat saying, greetings, comrades, good to see you, Lady Alex. Social emotional learning with Dr. Dung. He says this man is a nice, he got a nice liquor collection and the act. Drink him if you got him, baby. All right. Trauma Queens coming in saying, hey, JD. Hey, Queen. All right. Michelita says, is there ever a bias should exist and own is this kind of bias? Thank you very much, Miss Alicia. Mission, yeah. I couldn't talk today. Had to wet my whistle. All right. And then we have Silvio Pina says, quick hello. We'll circle back. Wanted to give you a view and a thumbs up. Looking into Steinware ticket right now. Really like what I've seen of you so far. Cornell West also may be for me. Thank you very much for tuning in. I am happy that you're staying outside of duopoly. Okay. That's my biggest ask, because the thing is, like, they don't care about either one of us. You have Harris and Trump. They both have flip-flopped on various key issues. You have Harris that is flip-flop, especially when it comes to issues on fracking. She has flip-flopped on issues. She's even trying to flip-flop on issues regarding healthcare. She was for Medicare for all, but then she flip-flopped on that. People like Donald Trump. One of the things that I haven't heard from either one of them is Donald Trump and Kamala Harris have not said a word about Marcellus Williams. Marcellus Williams is set to be executed in 3.5 hours. Dr. Joe Stein has said something. I'm pretty sure that Dr. Cornell West probably said something by now, because he's the type of guy that's, hip to those type of issues as well. But Donald Trump, Kamala Harris, staying the execution of an innocent man on death row. Even the DA is like, yeah, this guy's innocent. We need to free him. And they're still going to murder him. Still. His execution is set for, I think it's 7 p.m. Eastern time. So that's one thing I think that really needs to be honed in on, is the fact that they're willing to sit by and allow an innocent man, a black man, to be murdered by the state. No wonder why they are in league with the Zionist state of Israel, right? They don't, and by the way, they don't actually care about Jewish people either. They don't care about you. These are the same people that were willing to continue a proxy war in Ukraine, which a lot of, you have some of the battalions in Ukraine that were neo-Nazi groups. So crazy. This is why I say you got to leave the system. Yeah, Bryce says 6 p.m. Central today. Yeah, which is 7 p.m. my time. I hope something comes through. Like, look, I do not like Joe Biden. But if Joe Biden were to stay the execution of Marcellus Williams, I would at least give him credit for that. I do not want this innocent man to die. In fact, I don't want anybody to die, to be honest with you. This is why I'm against the death penalty. I didn't mean to get on this subject, but it's that important. This is why I'm against the death penalty. Because even if it's a 0.01% chance that we end up expiring, not we, but the state expires, ends the life of someone innocent, that is a percentage too far. Because humans make errors. Humans make mistakes. And so if somebody innocent can get swept up in that, it is not worth risking their death to get at other people who have done heinous things. It is better to just, the people who legitimately done heinous things, all right, let them serve life. But don't end the life of people via capital punishment. This is why I don't agree with it, because human error exists even in systems like this, and this system is a source of white supremacy. So of course they're not going to care about somebody like Marcellus Williams. I just hope that something happens where he's freed. Oh boy. Universe, free Marcellus Williams, please. Anyway, but yeah, I wanted to talk, go on that just for a second. All in saying, why is the system, the governor on down, refusing to allow him to live? What are they hiding and why? They're anti-human. A lot of these people who are in positions of power, whether in this government, in the West, in corporations, they are monsters. I have no other way to put it. I wish I could give it to you another way, but I can't. They're monsters. We live in a world ran by villains. That's all I can say. I wish I had more for you, but I just don't. Z Manny says, I saw Trump roasting Hillary at a luncheon in 2016 and she was laughing appreciatively. They were friends while her campaign was selling Trump as an antichrist. Such contempt for voters. Yeah, and that's the thing. You got to remember, Donald Trump was a Democrat for years. Donald Trump gave money to Kamala Harris when she was AG of California. So that means it's all one big club and you ain't in it. These people, they go to the same country clubs together. They're still cool with each other. It's all theater. Really, they're all workmates. And their bosses are the Elon Musks and the Harlan Crows and the Jeff Bezoses, the Walton families. That's who their bosses are. And they work happily for their bosses and they work happily side by side. They just want you to think that they're enemies when in reality, they're really good friends. All right, so let's continue to the next segment. I'm going to check. Wait, hang on. Let me check to see. Okay, we're good on the Rumble side. No Rumble rants. All right, so. And checking the Rockfin side. We're good on Rockfin. All right. Let's continue on to the next segment. Let's go into our primary segment. This story, I think, is absolutely necessary. C-sections for profit. I think this is going to be a really interesting segment. I think this is absolutely necessary. There are so many people who do not realize that this for-profit healthcare system really just does not care. And this for-profit healthcare system needs to be ended. And so I am going to share this article and we'll get into it. Black women. They are the ones who we try as much as we can to hold dear to us within the Black community. And when something bad happens to them or if they are exploited in any way, a lot of us as brothers, husbands, fathers, sons, we get testy. We get it, we have a conniption when We see systems that are doing their best to exploit our mothers, our sisters, our aunts, our daughters. What about the healthcare system? I think it's important that we examine this. A lot of times we talk about infant mortality. We talk about the mortality of Black women, especially when giving birth in this country. But a lot of times we don't focus on some of the other issues. Well, one of these issues being C-sections. Now, a C-section or a cesarean section is basically a type of surgery, a routine surgery that is given where instead of the baby being born going through the birth canal vaginally, the baby is taken out through the abdomen. Really, they actually make an incision and take the baby out through that way. So it's relatively something that's been done for over the last century, especially on a larger scale here in the United States. But it has been heavily used, especially on Black women. Let's go into this article. So, I think I should, increase it just a little bit more. So it says, doctors give Black women unneeded C-sections to fill operating rooms, study suggests. The blurb says, healthy Black women with low risk factors were far more likely to get C-sections than white women with similar medical histories, a new study found. Let's get into this. Obstetricians are more likely to give Black women unnecessary cesarean sections, putting those women at higher risk for serious complications like ruptured surgical wounds. That's the conclusion of a new report of nearly 1 million births in 68 hospitals in New Jersey, one of the largest studies to tackle the subject. Even if a Black mother and a white mother with similar medical histories saw the same doctor at the same hospital, the Black mother was about 20% more likely to have her baby via C-section, the study found. I find it interesting on this particular subject because I asked my mother, I am one of three. I asked her which one of us between me and my other brothers were C-sections. Two of us, being myself and one of my brothers, was a C-section birth. Now, with that being said, was it absolutely necessary? Okay. My brother, who was born, he was a big baby. That was probably necessary. But me? 6 pounds, 8 ounces? Nah, it probably wasn't necessary for me to be a C-section birth. Why not? But let's continue. It says, the additional operations on Black patients were more likely to happen when hospitals had no scheduled C-sections, meaning their operating rooms were sitting empty. That suggests that racial bias paired with financial incentives played a role in a doctor's decision making, the researchers said. I want to make this abundantly clear. Why are medical decisions being made based on profit? Medical decisions about our lives should not be driven by profit. This is why I said to Mr. Chester Todd earlier that I personally feel that we should have a nationalized healthcare system because profit should not exist in healthcare at all. Absolutely not. That's out of order. And the fact that Black women are being targeted for this profit-making scheme is absolutely horrific. It not only can put lives in danger, not saying that it's a life endangering procedure, but it's something that should be a last resort. But the fact that they're doing last resort procedures as the first resort, it doesn't make any sense. So when they can charge that Black woman's insurance, or they can charge or send that bill to that Black woman and make more money, that's wild. It's wild. Tell me this system isn't white supremacist without telling me this system is white supremacist. It is predatory. Let's continue. It says how that bias creeps in is not entirely clear. Doctors may rush to perform a C-section faster for Black women, worried about the well-known racial disparities in childbirth outcomes. Black women may feel less empowered to push back against the suggestion of C-section when their labor is not progressing, or when they do push back, they may be less likely to have their concerns taken seriously. This is something that has been spoken about time and time again when it comes to the medical community, especially when it comes to being Black. Our voices are less likely to be heard. Even when it comes to pain, there are still textbooks, even down to this day, that will say that Black people somehow have a higher pain tolerance. Somehow saying that our skin is thicker, when in reality, that's a whole bunch of baloney. That's not true at all. How many Black women that have went to gynecologists, OBGYNs, and have expressed to their lament that they have not been listened to? How many women have complained that they think they may have endometriosis, only for a doctor to wave it away and go, oh, it's just period pain. You're fine. And then they get seen by a Black OB, by a Black gyno. And they're like, nah, you got endometriosis. Or you have some other rare condition that they didn't bother to look into. All they did was they saw the color of your skin and said, and you're okay. This is systemic. This has been happening for decades and decades and decades to those of us. As somebody that frequently goes to the hospital, as somebody that is disabled, that has a chronic condition, you have to be your own advocates, because guess what? These people will not do it for you. And even when you're your own advocates, still, what you say falls on deaf ears. Let's continue. Physicians may have certain beliefs about Black women. That was from Janet Curie, from health economist from Princeton University. They might not be listening to Black women as much, or be more afraid that something will go wrong. C-section delivery is the most common surgery in American hospitals. Despite years of advocacy to lessen its use, about 30% of babies in the United States are delivered this way, about double the proportion deemed appropriate by the World Health Organization. While the surgery can be life-saving, unnecessary surgeries create a higher risk of complications for mothers, as well as higher medical bills. It says they found that overall, Black women were 25% more likely to have C-sections than white women were. Among women who arrived healthy and who had few risk factors, the gap was even larger. with Black women more than twice as likely to be given C-sections. Medical records cannot capture everything a doctor used to make medical decisions, the researcher said. Doctors might not always write down details that made Black women better candidates for surgical delivery. Still, the data on the capacity of the hospital's operating rooms points to explanations that are not medically justified. When other women were occupying operating rooms with scheduled cesarean deliveries, Black and white women had the same likelihood of being there for delivery. If Black moms are better candidates for C-section, then you should see them getting sent for C-section more, even when there's limited capacity. That was from Molly Schnell. Says the disparity emerged only when the operating rooms were empty. Then 8% of healthy Black women wound up delivering by C-section compared with 4.8% of healthy white women. So this is one of the biggest points I think that people don't realize. Here's this quote. There is lots of evidence that if a hospital has a CT scan or an MRI, they like to keep it busy. If you have an operating room set up to do C-section, they like to keep that busy too. Why? Because elective procedures make money. Elective procedures roll in the dough. This is why if you come in and you got brown skin, and if that operating room is empty and you're about to have a baby, they want to cut the baby out instead of you delivering the baby au naturel. Because they get to charge more money because they put that scalpel to your abdomen. Because if you just let it come out naturally, right, with the assistance of the hospital, they don't get to charge that much. This is why we say that healthcare should be a human right and profits should not be associated with healthcare. I guarantee you, if we had a nationalized healthcare system, the rates of C-sections between Black women and white women would be relatively the same. Because if you have an operating room that's not being used, and if it's not being used for profit at all, that operating room stays open. And that operating room is going to be more available for emergencies rather than elective surgeries. And so it's crazy when you have, a for-profit system like this. Dr. Ajioma Akwandu, a practicing obstetrician with Kaiser Permanente in Atlanta, who also researched racial disparities in C-section rates, said the study was novel because it followed the money. Now, here's the figures. Says that's really the driver of so much that happens in medicine. Private insurance plans typically pay about $17,000 for C-section delivery and $11,500 for vaginal birth. Let me ask you something. If you don't go to the hospital, let's say you don't go to the hospital and you have a birth at home. That baby comes out without you actually, that baby's going to come whether or not you're at the hospital or not. Now, there could be complications. There could be things like that arrive, of course, that the hospital can intervene in. But typically, nature takes its course. $11,000 to do something that naturally happens? Now, I understand some women may want things like an epidural in order to be able to, kind of quell some of the pain, labor pains and things like that. it's good to have medical personnel there to monitor, to make sure that the baby is okay. This may have times where the baby may be, born breached, which means they may have to turn the baby around. There may be other issues where the umbilical cord goes around the baby's neck, which happens actually a little bit more often than people realize. Things like that, right? Of course, they gotta be careful with things like that, right? This is why that's important. And so, but $11,000. So I want to continue in this article a little bit further, but one of the things I want to do is I want to share this this video, and because I think it's also really interesting. Let's get into this.
%30 of pregnant women in the United States end up having cesarean sections. It's a number that many say is far too high. Local 10 medical specialist Christy Kruger has details on those concerns in today's HealthCast.
A cesarean delivery, or most of you know it as a C-section, is a life-saving surgery in emergency situations. But if it is overused, it could be harmful to both mom and baby and could bring an increased risk of at least one chronic condition to infants. This brand new study shows that a C-section will increase the risk for infection, for bleeding, and may lead to problems in future pregnancies. The surgery may also be a problem for your baby as well.
Those moms who chose to have a primary or first birth cesarean section, those babies had a higher incidence, absolute risk of asthma, and had hospitalizations because of asthma. So that kind of points to, again, that cesarean section is not necessarily the best route.
Also in today.
So, with that being said, C-sections should be the last resort to preserve the life of the mother and of the baby. The fact that it's being used routinely, especially at higher rates for Black women, to be honest with you, should push you to push for either a single payer healthcare system, or more broadly, a national healthcare system that takes the profit motive out of the healthcare system entirely. It is the profit motive that is bad for us. It is the profit motive that is harming or could potentially harm Black women and babies. This is why when I talk about a national healthcare system, these are the type of things that I'm talking about. It's interesting, actually. I was looking up pictures of babies that were harmed for cesarean sections. There was a little baby that was just born that had a gash on his cheek. That gash came from the scalpel. Now, thank God that baby is alive. And if that was during an emergency where they had to do a C-section in order to save the baby, I'd rather my baby have a little cut on his cheek and the mother and the baby survive. That's fine. But what if that was an unnecessary cesarean section? See what I mean? So, you open that baby up to having infections and bleeding, things like that. This is why I say should be last resort. But unfortunately, they want to make their money. These hospitals that are privately owned, or even some that are the non-profit, they still want to make their money. This is why it needs to be community owned. We need to have community owned hospitals, clinics, imaging centers, because ultimately they just want to make their money. But if they're owned by the community and there's no profit motive at all, they're going to be looking out for your health, which also includes preventing you from having to come in too, which means more preventative medicine. So when speaking about the health risks, there's something that I came across that I think that's also a interesting but vital story to go down regarding C-sections and the unnecessary ones. Let's take a look.
My first pregnancy was perfect. My obstetrician recommended a cesarean. There were no complications at all. I did well, my son did well, and we had a really uneventful recovery. And sure enough, about a year later, I got pregnant with my second son, and I ended up developing a severe complication called placenta accreta. So placenta accreta is when the placenta attaches too deeply into the uterine wall. The placenta can become invasive, like a cancer. I had access to some of the most experienced and talented surgeons in the country, and to hear them speak with respect and awe of a placenta accreta delivery. One of them actually even said to me that placenta accreta deliveries are predictably unpredictable. We had gone into my delivery preparing to do a cesarean hysterectomy and expected bladder repair. But once the team was able to get in there and see how severe my case actually was, they determined that it was too risky to proceed. So the decision was made to go ahead and close me up with the entire placenta intact and untouched. And I spent 2 months postpartum in the hospital. My son spent a month in the NICU. And my stay had multiple surgeries, the most dramatic of which was where I required 26 units of blood products. My husband was a huge support system for me. He spent every night in the hospital with me. And my older son, Everett, moved in with my parents. And my whole family really just became all hands on deck to help me get through this. Leo's amazing. He's feisty and strong. He's like a little powerhouse. And he's such a gift. I can't imagine my life without him. A cesarean can be a life-saving intervention. The goal is not to eliminate cesareans. The goal is to make decisions regarding cesareans appropriately and to.
So one of the things that I wanted to address, there was actually a comment that comes in here. I rarely get comments from Twitch, but this person, Liberty Twitcher, says, but isn't that the woman's choice? Yes, especially, in regards to their body. Yeah. And this person says, are you saying Black women shouldn't have the choice? No, but what I am saying is that it should be advised that it's a last resort. The problem is that they're giving it as an option, like it's on the menu. And it's like, yeah, you can, but at the same time, it's like we advise that you don't do it because of the risks and complications that could come from it. You know what I'm saying? That's the thing. It's just like, if you can avoid it, then why not just avoid it? That's why I also say that, I echo what women are saying, that it should be a, last resort. But at the same time, if they still want to do it, you can't necessarily stop them, but you advise them and say, well, this is going to be something that puts you at risk in certain ways. You know what I'm saying? That's what I mean. Let's continue.
Recognize that even an uncomplicated cesarean and recovery can still put the mother at significant future risk. So coming out of my experience, I just couldn't believe that more people weren't talking about placenta accreta. And it's great to see that the data was getting out there about how high our cesarean rates are and that we need to start decreasing them. but most of the conversations were about decreased recovery times and lower cost. Nobody was saying that there is a significant patient safety impact to our high cesarean rates. And that's where I really felt compelled to start sharing my story and to start educating people on what the downstream risks of a cesarean can be.
So one thing she talked about was also things like decreased recovery time. If you're having a typical vaginal birth, then your recovery time is 1 to 2 days in a hospital, versus recovering from a surgery takes a week or more. So if you're in the hospital for a week, who's raking in more money? See what I mean? Versus, if you're not in danger at all, if the baby is fine and it's a typical birth, if you have just a regular vaginal birth, well, guess what? Then you could just be in a hospital 2 days tops, and then you're at home recovering. The thing is, like, they want, you in the hospital as long as possible, especially if you got good insurance, so that you can stay and they can rake in the dough. These people will charge you, $25 for an aspirin. You don't think they don't want to keep giving you those aspirin? You don't think they want you to, keep that up? Come on
now. There are too many cesareans now, 1 in 3 births. And researchers estimate that as many as 50% of those are unnecessary. And since a prior cesarean is a significant risk factor for developing a future accreta, that means that there are women developing accreta when it could have been prevented. So the easiest way to decrease the amount of accretas is to reduce cesarean levels. I can't say if I would have done anything differently if I had known about accreta, but I can say that the decisions that we made surrounding my first birth were not fully informed. Women are dying from this, and mothers are dying from this. We need to take the risks of a cesarean seriously.
So this is also another point that a lot of people don't take into consideration is the, what if you have a second baby, and there are some people who, don't think about the, once you have a cesarean, you might have to have another cesarean. You might can't, or, there's going to make complications for future births, if you have, especially if you have your cesarean as your first kid, and if it wasn't a last resort, you know what I'm saying? So let's continue into this article, go back in. It says doctors know the data shows where there are worse birth outcomes for Black women, and that could play into having their lower risk tolerance. But at the same time, they're perpetuating another disparity in C-sections. New study found that rather than preventing harm, the C-sections giving birth to women when the C-sections given to women when the operating rooms were otherwise empty led to more surgical complications. Recovery often requires more time in the hospital, and other studies have also linked the surgery to lower odds of successful breastfeeding. A C-section, Dr. Okwando said, is taken as something that is common, but it's not without risk. So this was a deep article, to go into when it comes to how those of us who are, Black in this country, we are often exploited. If they're not going to exploit us through the healthcare system, they're going to exploit us through the prison industrial complex. Because this is what they do. Why? Because ultimately, if you go into the prison industrial complex, then you get slave labor. Remember, the 13th Amendment is still, allows for slavery. So they're going to get you either way, either through the for-profit industrial complex or the prison industrial complex. Or they'll try to make money off of you in the military industrial complex by getting your kids to sign up at predominantly Black and brown schools to go fight in wars overseas and put their bodies on the line. So this is why the profit motive has to be taken out of the hands of these corporations, and we need a pro-human motive that only focuses on our health, nothing else. So I think this goes without saying that if you want to keep the profit motive in the healthcare system, you want to keep us at risk. And don't come to me saying, oh, well, you want these people who are working in the hospitals, you want the nurses and the doctors to be slaves. Nobody said that. For anybody who, when I talk about making the healthcare system a national healthcare system, let me ask you this. Are the people who work in the consulates, are they slaves? Are the people who work in the Social Security offices, are they slaves? Are the people who work at TSA, are they slaves? Now, they should get paid more than what they do, but are they slaves? Are the people who work in the FBI, are they slaves? Are the people who work in the Department of Agriculture, are those slaves? You see, the thing about it is that we're talking about nationalizing it so that there's no profit. That's the point. And also, if you nationalize it, that means everybody can use it, no matter if they don't have money or if they do. Because there's no profit. Therefore, any human being on this land can actually use it and get help. Now, if you want to talk about the cost of it, yeah, it's going to cost money. But at the same time, this is why we focus on preventative medicine. Preventative medicine would mean that less people have to go to use these medical facilities as often. And if you do that, guess what? That lowers the cost as well. And you also have more healthier people. Don't you want the entire population to be healthier? I would like to see that. So, if you haven't thought of a nationalized healthcare system, I recommend that you do. Of course, many people are for single-payer healthcare, which I say is a step in the right direction, but I think we should go further and have a full nationalization. Because a full nationalization will help all of us, not just a very small few. So thank you very much. Thank you very much for everybody tuning into that. Go ahead and like the stream. Let's get into the comments, and then we'll move on to our final segment. All right, so I'm going to go to the Rockfin first. Actually, let me check the Rumble. See if I have any Rumble rants. Jesus. All right. All right. Looks like we're good there. All right. Let's go into the Rock. Oh. Uh-oh. What'd I do? What'd you do, James? Come on. There we go. Okay. Let me share the screen. All right. Thank you for this, Roger. Roger says, speaking of healthcare, there's a link here. Says today Bernie Sanders took the CEO of pharma giant Novo Nordisk to task over the cost of Wegovy. Wegovy, an identical drug to Ozempic, could bankrupt Medicare. Big Pharma is charging Americans 10 times what people around the world pay, and the effects could be catastrophic. That's interesting. I'm going to have to take a look into that, Roger. Thank you very much for that. All right, let's continue. Says JB, what are the chances these hospitals are shareholder owned? I mean, I'm pretty confident that they are. I mean, because of the poor profit motive. Roger says publicly owned and operated or cooperatively owned hospitals and pharmaceuticals, yes. However, public investment in lifestyle change. Stop putting things in our food that don't belong. I agree. Keep going. It says more community gardens, agricultural co-ops, government vouchers to pay for Qigong, yoga, boxing, martial arts, personal trainer, gym membership. I agree with that too. Complete lifestyle change to get us off drugs. Thank you. It says ban direct advertising of drugs to the public. Mandate minimum wage must always match the tie of cost of living. So one parent can stay home and make slow home-cooked meals. Healthy nation. Yes, because JB wants that homemade cornbread, collard greens, black-eyed peas, and some turkey. That's what JB wants. And if JB came home and found that, JB be happy. Thank you very much for that. But ultimately, if we actually had a nationalized healthcare system in order to reduce costs, then that would mean that there is we would bring the hammer down on the food industry for putting things like high fructose corn syrup and all these different additives in our food. We would bring a hammer down on them. We'd be like, look, you guys are making us unhealthy, which also increases the cost for our healthcare systems. And if we got that, taxpayers are paying for our healthcare system, then we're going to be like, no. You guys need to, we got to curb this. And one of the things I think that would help is also, democratizing these companies, these food companies as well, so that if I'm a cereal brand, and let's say it becomes let's say Kellogg's becomes, co-op owned. If I know what the ingredients in my cereal is, I'm going to want to make sure that those are the healthiest ingredients possible. Meaning, I am not going to have high fructose corn syrup in my kids' cereal. If I'm a worker owner, and if I have a democratic say in how that company is ran, no, we're not putting high fructose corn syrup in my cereal. No, absolutely not. In fact, if we're going to do any type of sugar, it'll be pure cane sugar. And we're going to limit that sugar so that the kids will not be inundated with all this salt, fat, sugar, and additives in our cereal. That's what we're going to do. Because I want my kids to be able to eat the cereal that I bring home, because I'll probably be able to bring it home with a discount. But at the same time, hey, no, I don't want my kids eating that. I want to be able to eat it too. Damn it, give me my Cinnamon Toast Crunch. But that's the thing. I think it's important that, Cinnamon Toast Crunch, I think it's General Mills. Anyway, but still, same principle. But yes, I appreciate that, Roger. And by the way, Roger, I know, you just got through with the funeral probably, but, dude, you can always comment, and we can, talk about this later, if you want to, but I just, my heart's with you. You know what I mean? All right, let's continue here. yeah, I forgot. Got these here. Okay. Z Manny says, I remember a segment on CNN showing black patients and white patients going to the doctors describing the same symptoms, and the doctors referred the white patients for more tests, but not the black ones. Yep. That happens a lot too. We'll be like, well, I think we should do this. And it's like, well, no, that's not really necessary. And it's like, why? You know, the black patients won't get it, but the white patients will. Zoe says, my brother got a cut on his forehead. 38 years later, you can still see it. So I'm guessing your brother was a C-section. Got that cut when he was, when they were taking him out. Lauren says midwifery services too. Yeah, this is why I think we really should normalize more midwife services for births, and offer that for the hospitals for people to have that done. Because ultimately, if we could make sure that, things go as naturally as possible, we still offer, of course, the choices, but I mean, most moms are going to want to, just take the best choice that's right for them. And a lot of times, that ends up being, well, if they can have just a regular birth, some of them, they want it with, pain reducing medication. Okay, fine. Pain reducing medication. Okay. And they have that, and have their baby, because ultimately it's their health that they want to maximize. It's not necessarily just, having a baby is no picnic in the park at all, so you want it to go as smoothly as possible. And I say, if you can just go the natural route without having to go any other route, and make sure it goes as smoothly as possible, so that both mom and baby are, good, you push that instead of placing them in more of a risk for complications. Z Manny says the Green Platform promotes improved and expanded Medicare for all, plus the nationalization of healthcare system overall. Our current privatized system is barbaric and infamous. Absolutely. This is why we get laughed at across the world for our healthcare system. I mean, average price to have a kid in the hospital is between $11,000 and $14,000. Why should it be that way? I don't think it should. All right. Tim Price says, heck yeah, pure cane sugar is good. Yeah. There's this soda. I forget the name of it, but I think it's made in Mexico, but it comes in a glass bottle. And they only have like a couple of flavors. But if you look at the ingredients, the sugar is pure cane sugar. And that soda is really, really delicious. I only drink it maybe like once a month because I really don't drink soda like that. But if I do, that's the stuff I get. And some of these will use like beet juice to give it the red color, stuff like that. It is really natural. I love stuff like that. And so I think if we had, oh yes. Zoe, Jarritos. That's so good. And the thing is, the fact that it comes in a glass bottle is pretty legit. It's just like when people talk about Coca-Cola from Mexico. If you get the Mexican Coca-Cola, it has pure cane sugar, no high fructose corn syrup. And it comes in a glass bottle. And you know how cold and frosty it gets in the glass bottle? Ooh! And, I'm not supposed to be drinking Coca-Cola like that, but I'm going to be honest with you, maybe like once every 6 months, maybe, I'll probably try to get me a Mexican Coke, Mexican Coca-Cola classic. So good. But yeah, thank you very much for reminding me. Black Unit Griffin says cane sugar is bad for teeth though. And Europe, they only use sugar beets because it's sweeter and use less of it. Hey, Hey, look, I'm for what's the healthier option while still making it taste good. So that's where I go. But yeah. But good to see a black unit, Griffin. Wait, I thought it said Black Unit Griffin says if you buy, collect, and collect municipal bonds, you will have a big say in what goes on in your community as well as other communities you own bonds of. That's interesting. I did not know that. Thank you. Zaymani says Michael Moore did an interview segment for the corporation, and he pointed out about 1/3 of the population was tied to co-ops and credit unions, how to tap and politicize this demographic. Thank you very much. And thank you, Lauren. I appreciate it very much. I'm going to do one more, and then we can move on. Oh, I remember somebody posted something here. Let me see. Human Rights for All says why we need Medicare or healthcare for all. I think you meant to say that's why we need it. Yeah, I completely agree. There was a somebody put this in the chat. The recovery for C. Oh, yep. Alwyn Same says 6 weeks is recovery for a C-section. 6 weeks. Wow, man. That was 30 years ago. Wow. Yeah. 6 weeks at home. Thank you very much for that. Okay. So we're about to go into our final segment, and then we will be heading on out. I went overtime, but it's all good because it was necessary. So let's get into our final segment. We're going to be talking about Disney World. We're going to be talking about Mickey Mouse. Oh, boy. All right. Just come up. Hang on. Did this? Hang on. This it's showing up. Oh, it's okay. Maybe it's just me. But we're going to be talking about Disney Springs second-class workers. So this is going to be a story about restaurant workers in Disney Springs. I think we need to talk about what they're going through. So Disney Springs, if those of you who do not live in Orlando know, Disney Springs is the kind of outer type of area where you can go in and walk around without having to pay to go into Disney, right? There's restaurants, there's shops, there's stores, there's entertainment. You know, for instance, you have places like the House of Blues, right? You have, different restaurants like the Rainforest Cafe. Planet Hollywood used to actually have a big restaurant out there. I actually applied to work there back in the day. It's a restaurant that I think it's over 800 seats, right? That was a huge restaurant. It was considered one of the busiest restaurants in the world. I think it was back in '97. It was considered one of the busiest restaurants in the world, and that was the Planet Hollywood. And at that time, it was called Disney's Pleasure Island, and then they called it Downtown Disney. But now it's called Disney Springs. So they rebranded a couple times. But while Disney has union members, as cast members, the employees of the third-party companies aren't so lucky. So let's get into this. I wanted to get into the story because I think this is important that, those of us here in Orlando, we may think if you work in Disney Springs, that you're a Disney employee. In reality, it's not actually the case. So let's get into this article. It says Disney Springs restaurant workers highlight their second-class status with lower pay and fewer benefits than unionized Disney employees. It says they vow to continue to fight for a fair process to organize. So here are the Disney employees from Local 737 Unite here. So let's continue on. Julie Lindsay, a 21-year-old server who works at the upscale Italian restaurant Maria and Enzo's at Disney Springs, says she hears from guests all the time how lucky she must feel to work for Walt Disney World. And she gets it. Guests at Disney expect to get the Disney magic, the Disney experience from us. Still, when she hears those kinds of comments, she admits, I'm quickly reminded that I am a second-class worker. She's not alone. A new survey released by Hospitality Labor Union Unite Here Local 737 highlights what subcontracted workers like Lindsay describe as second-class status on Disney World property, a class of non-union workers at subcontracted bars and eateries who earn less pay and have fewer benefits and rights on the job. Compared to their unionized counterparts employed by Disney World. Lindsay, like nearly 1,000 other workers at 56 restaurants and bars in Disney Spring Marketplace, is not officially employed by Disney despite working on the entertainment giant's property. Her restaurant and several others across Disney Springs Marketplace are owned and operated by a division of Delaware North, a multinational hospitality company that reported $4.3 billion in revenue last year, surpassing their pre-pandemic levels. So it's not like they don't have the money, when it comes to, worker pay as well as benefits. And, I think it's safe to say that most of these workers, they live here in Orlando. Orlando is quickly becoming one of the most expensive cities in the state of Florida. According to the National Low Income Housing Coalition, you have to make at least $35 an hour in order to afford a 2-bedroom apartment in this state. And one of the fastest growing cities is Orlando, Florida. We're getting up there with Miami and West Palm Beach. That's how fast and how expensive this city is getting. And of course, as the city goes up, the county also as well. So we are in Orange County. Disney sits right around the cusp between Orange County and Osceola County. And so, of course, you have that access to Osceola, where you have Kissimmee, St. Cloud, Point Siena. So you have that, as well as you have all of Orange County. And then on top of it is Walt Disney World. So it's the entertainment capital of the world. We have millions and millions of people that come through Orlando International every single year. We have Disney pretty much owns Orlando. If you get off the plane at OIA, by the time you hit that monorail, that tram that takes you from the gates to the main terminal, right? You'll see painted on there, remember the magic. You'll see Mickey, Minnie, Donald, Goofy, Daisy. You see them in your face. I'm telling you right now, Disney is king of Orlando. The mouse rules all. So when it comes to people who work for the mouse, to be honest with you, a lot of them, they actually don't make that much because it's a big corporation, right? Multinational. And look, Walt Disney owns ABC News. They own ESPN, right? So these companies that are literally on Disney property, they make good money. Good money. And the fact that these workers aren't really making enough, it says a lot. Let's continue. It says other Disney Spring spots like the Rainforest Cafe and Raglan Road Irish Pub are operated by different subcontractors who have agreements with the Walt Disney Company to operate on the Mouse's property. It says chefs and servers who work at several of these subcontract restaurants came together at Local 737 Union Hall on Wednesday to highlight the second-class status as they renew a call for their employees to allow them a fair process to organize a union. Although over the 40,000 Disney World employees have been unionized for decades, workers at these subcontracted bars and restaurants at Disney Springs are not. Says Sabrina Reddit, a full-time cook at Disney Springs, Morimoto, Asia, owned by Delaware North. This means her pay rate of $18 per hour is $5.10 less than what somebody employed by Disney earns in her same role. That equal to a difference of roughly $10,000 a year, a difference that is increasingly weighing on her. Remember what I just said. In order to afford a 2-bedroom apartment in Orlando, Florida, you need to make over $35 an hour. So if you're only making $18 an hour, guess what? That's half of what you need to make. And look, you still need to make way more above that in order for a 1-bedroom. So people making $18, $19, even $20 an hour, they're having to shack up with other people and live in duress. Some people, they may have to live in hotels and motels in order to be able to survive. Now, I want to get back to this, but look, even regular cast members. So, okay, Disney employees are called cast members. Cast is an acronym. I forget exactly. Costume, something. Anyway, but a lot of Disney employees, cast members, are not actually making that much money either. And so there was a story that I think I brought out a while back. Hang on. I think I had it up, but I think I took it down. There was this story about how Disney cast members are not making enough, right? Yeah, here it is. All right, so let me share this with you guys too, because I think this is important. Because if workers for third-party vendors aren't making enough, right? It's not just them. It's also actual cast members too. So let me share this with you guys just for a second.
In essence, is the happiest place on earth if you do not work. You have cast members crying in the break room because they can't afford food and they're eating ramen noodles and they don't know what to do. That's painful. And that's what we're seeing now. We're seeing cast members struggle so hard, and it shouldn't be that way. We bring the magic to the guest. Why won't Disney bring the magic to the cast?
When I go to change my costume, I see my fellow cast members coming out of their car to go take a shower because that's their home. I see my cast members not eating during their break because they don't have food. I personally have bought food. I've tried to help as much as I can, but I'm struggling as it is. There's only so much I can do.
Wait 1 minute. Disney doesn't feed their employees for free? Disney does not feed their employees for free. You do not get free food for your lunch break? out of the millions of dollars they make per month, you mean to tell me out of the millions of dollars they make per day, just in food service alone, and they do not feed the very people that make their company run? They rather their employees starve? I'm not talking about third-party companies. I'm talking about the mouse himself.
If I have to come to work after thinking about my rent, thinking about my daughter's education and finances, expenses, and I have to come to work and smile, that's not magical. That's painful.
Living in the Orlando area has definitely posed its challenges. I think that since me and my husband first moved here in 2016, that everything from, again, the price of rent to food, everything has really gone up, but it hasn't reflected in our paychecks. Our rent alone has gone up over 30%, and we live in the same apartment that has the same amenities.
I'm going to end up homeless like a lot of other cast members. I'm going to end up living in my car or living in a homeless shelter because I still have underage children.
I've noticed that food pantries are coming back in the locations because some of our cast can't afford to bring food. You hear people eating at the vending machine more. People are leaving their apartments and moving in with other people. This is sad because we work for a multi-billion-dollar company and we should really be able to sustain ourselves. But you can't do nothing with $15 an hour in Central Florida. I'm looking at less than $500 in my savings, which means one big thing can take my whole family financially out of the game and put us back in a cycle that we have fought so hard to get out of.
I have to.
So that I'm sharing this with you guys to show that if the cast members are doing that, imagine what the restaurant workers and third-party vendors are going through. Because the restaurant workers and third-party vendors in Disney Springs are also having it bad. So I don't want people to think that, oh, well, if you're a Disney cast member, then why not just move over to Disney as a regular cast member so then you can work for them and you'll be good. No. Disney ain't doing good for their cast members either. And this tells me that the union could be doing a whole lot better than what they are already doing. But of course, some union bosses, some union presidents are in cahoots with the people at the top. This is why it's important to push for more worker-owned companies, worker-owned workplaces, because ultimately, we have to go beyond unions. I'd say unions are good. They're a step in the right direction, but we have to go beyond them. So let's go back into the article. I wanted to share that with you guys as well. So Miss Reddit says, I'm a single mom. At this point, I can't support my family on the wage I am making. So like many other renters in Orlando, a young mom said she's facing a rent increase from her landlord that she can't afford to pay. And her landlord has begun the process of evicting her and her family. If I worked for Disney, I'd be able to keep a roof over my family. Julissa Ruiz, a young server at Pizza Point, another Delaware North restaurant, says she similarly struggles to get by. earning just $16 an hour and bringing home less than $500 weekly, working part-time. Without access to a full-time job opportunity, she can't afford her own place, doesn't have a car, and is currently staying in the living room of a friend's house. I'm basically homeless. When people say, oh, you just need to get a job, then they move the goalposts. They'll go, well, you just need to go back to school. All right, well, I'm $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 in student loan debt. Can you guys help me out there? Well, you shouldn't have went to college. You should have tried to get yourself a scholarship. I did, and I was denied. Well, whose problem is that? See where it goes? And then next thing you know, well, they default on their student loans, and then they end up back out in the street. And it's like, well, you should have been smarter about how you spent your money. But you told me to go to college. You told me to get an education. I got into all that debt. Then I went into a job where I couldn't even pay it off, because the thing is that they're not even paying that much. You got people with master's degrees that not even being able to make an actual living wage. And then they're having to work for, look, they're working for these restaurants. And the thing is like, look, I'll put it this way. There is dignity in work, period, right? And people should not be, placed one above another because of the type of work that they do, whether you work in a restaurant or you work in a law firm. It doesn't matter. You're still doing work. The problem is that you have people who will work at places like this, and you'll look down upon them and say, well, you guys just need to do better. You guys, we can't pay this well. When in reality, you could. I'll be honest with you. You can't pay a living wage. You shouldn't exist. I said what I said. The problem is you got a lot of people who will make excuses for these big corporations. It does not make any sense for people who are at the top to make 300, 400, 500% more than their lowest paid employee. That is absolutely crazy. Let's continue. Oh, and by the way, if you're staying in a hotel or motel under duress, or if you're staying with a friend, or hell, if you have roommates, but you're under duress, like you really don't want roommates, but you have to, essentially you're homeless. Because you're under duress having to be in a living situation that you really don't want to be in. How many people are actually homeless in this country? It's way bigger than they're willing to admit. By they, corporations, Democrat and Republican parties, they don't want to admit that, but it's true. Now we'll continue. But it's not just the difference in pay that is uniting local workers. According to a new survey from the union of 69 workers employed at 18 of these subcontracted Disney Springs locations, 59% said they are part-time, meaning they don't have access to benefits given to full-timers only. 46% of those surveyed said that they have no health insurance, and only 19% report having health insurance through the employer. Says the industry has been flooded with part-time positions that are demanding full-time availability without offering full-time benefits. That's another thing that some of these companies will do, is a lot of times they will take you and say, okay, you're going to be part-time, but they'll put you just to the point where you should be full-time, and then they will work you there, as a full-timer, so that you will do full-time hours, but they're only giving you part-time benefits and part-time pay. And so then you're having to pay through the nose for your healthcare because you can't get it through your job. See, this is another reason why I say we need to nationalize the healthcare system, because people shouldn't have to pay for healthcare through their jobs. It should just be there for everybody, from the womb to the tomb, from birth to back to earth. Anywho, so it says Kristen Mercer, an Orlando native who works as a server at Maria Enzo's, said back in April, when Disney Springs workers first announced their organizing efforts, that the industry has been flooded with part-time jobs since the pandemic. Specifically, she said there are positions that are demanding full availability while failing to offer the benefits of a full-time job. Jeremy Hyken, president of the United Here Local 737, which conducted the survey, said that this stands in stark contrast to Disney World's unionized workforce. Out of the 18,000 plus employees their union specifically represents at Disney World, only 31% work part-time, and 100% of workers receive paid sick time, regardless of part-time or full-time status. 69% of those who are full-time have access to union negotiated health insurance. So, of course, people are talking about how they can't go without health insurance. This person actually is forced to buy their health insurance, which is sad in itself because health insurance is extremely expensive. $500 a month. Cammy said, I believe every worker at Disney Springs deserves a first-class job too. So here's the fear that's put in by these corporations. According to Mercer, the server at Maria and Enzo's, the process of organizing at her restaurant has been slow, in part because she says people are scared. She feels comfortable enough speaking to the media, but others are worried about becoming a target for retaliation. So, ultimately, here's the point. In addition, because Florida is a right-to-work state, no worker can be compelled to join a union or pay union dues, even if a majority of workers at their job chose to formally unionize. And if a workplace does unionize, non-union members will enjoy the same benefits as their union coworker. Non-members will enjoy the same benefits as their union coworkers. Mercer, who's worked in the hospitality industry for over a decade, said that while it can be disheartening to come across a coworker ardently opposed to unionization, she feels it's often coming from a place of, well, this just doesn't affect me, without realizing that one day it might. And in the meantime, others who are afforded less are struggling to get by. So this is what's going on. And as far as the people who are working at Disney Springs or working in the restaurant industry, I think that you guys are able to unionize and make a further demand. I'm going to try to reach out to them to see if they're able to fully unionize, and if they do, I'd honestly like to see them wield their power, because I'm going to be honest with you. If you shut down the restaurants in Disney Springs shuts down. All you got to do is go like this. And you know how I know that would really put a monkey wrench in these owners at Disney Springs? Ron DeSantis screwed up the people at the top. Because if these workers say absolutely not, then these corporations cannot exploit undocumented workers, because the undocumented workers, they are prevented by Ron DeSantis from actually legitimately working in this state because of the bills that he's passed, because of the laws he's passed. So they can't exploit other workers and go, all right, well, we'll just get other scabs and we'll hire them to come in. No. These workers, if they can unionize, I'm hoping that, inadvertently, Ron DeSantis kind of screwed over the big business leaders in this state. But I'm just hoping that, they're able to get their union going, because it absolutely means the world to be able to afford to be able to afford an apartment, to afford a home, to not have to worry about, you being at the mercy of, kindness from strangers. You know what I mean? Like, while kindness from strangers is necessary and it's nice, we should have a system that gives people what they absolutely deserve, which is housing, healthcare, education, food, basics. So, of course, my solidarity is with the people who are at Disney Springs. Keep fighting. And look, I hope that they are successful with Local 737. Get that union going. Make your demands. Get, pay that is equal to cast members or better. And give them hell. Give them hell. All right. So you know what to do. Go ahead and give a like. Thank you very much for that. Let's get into the comments, the replies, the cheers, the jeers, whatever. Let me see this. All right, looks like we're good on the Rockfin side. Let's go to the Rumble side. Let's go to the Rockfin side. All right. It's almost 5. Jeez. I got 5 on it. Anyway. All right, so Roger got some more to say. Okay. Roger says Disney owns this and Disney owns that, but BlackRock owns them all. We got to work to do people 2026 CBI amendments to take them down state by state. These 2024 CBIs have no creative energy behind them. CBI amendment, Citizen Ballot Initiative amendment, that mandating minimum wage match the cost of living. Mandate government cover 85 to 100% of labor costs for startup and small mid-sized businesses, both traditional and cooperative. This is what I mean when I say those running minimum wage CBIs have no creative energy. Their CBIs is too low, too late, and too bad. CBI activists be building incomplete cars, like purposefully building it with 3 wheels. Yeah, That's true. Some of these ideas really need to be. I feel like some people, they're not dreaming big enough when it comes to these CBIs, and so I think that pushing for a CBI, for instance, that mandates minimum wage to match the cost of living, I think that's really good. I also think that mandating the government to cover 85 to 100% of labor costs for startup and small and mid-sized businesses, especially for worker co-ops, I think that would be great. I also think, and maybe this might sound crazy to some people, but I think that small businesses that start up, they should be tax exempt for 10 years. Just like there are immigrants who are able to move here and start businesses and get tax exempt status for 10 years, I think small businesses should be tax exempt for their first 10 years. Yeah. And if you're already started and you're still within your first 10 years, I think it should be prorated for you to get, if you're still within your first decade, it should be prorated so that you can pay less in taxes. Or if you've already been paying those taxes, well, then you get tax-free for the years remaining, for that decade, for your first decade or something like that. But I honestly think, that would be a good start off, especially for workers. Because, I think that workers really deserve a break. The workers deserve a win. And it should be more encouraged for workers to get it should be encouraged for workers to go into a co-op so that they can own. Because I think the rate of entrepreneurship, because a lot of times people talk about entrepreneurs, they talk about people who own their own businesses by themselves, when in reality it's like, no, you can be a worker owner and have co-worker owners and still be considered an entrepreneur. I think we should increase that entrepreneurship to worker co-ops as well, where we have more worker owners out here. Thank you very much for that, Raj. Okay. Let's go into Black Unit Griffin says, every time I had an opportunity to work for Disney, it always went so badly. Horrible. They would call me and harass me to try to get me to work for them many times. Yeah, I remember when I tried to get a job at Disney. This was years ago when I was in the food service industry. I had went to school for it and everything, and I tried to get a job as a chef. And one of the things, like, everything went well, right? The interview process, all that. But one of the first things they asked me was, do you have reliable transportation to and from work? I said, yes. I said, and I mentioned the bus, which the number 50 all day goes to the Transportation Ticket Center, the TTC, right? And you can literally just take the bus and go to work at Disney, because the bus goes straight from downtown bus station straight to Disney World. The interviewer said that's not a reliable source of transportation. I'm like, wait a minute, public transportation is not reliable? According to her, no. I had to have a car in order to be able to work for Disney. I should have just lied and said, yeah, I got a car. But that wasn't in me to lie. But to them, I wasn't a good candidate, all because I had to take the bus to get to work. So I never got to work for the mouse, even though I tried. I tried twice. But I never could. So it's crazy how, they would treat people like me. And the crazy part was I was trained, I took 2 years in commercial foods and culinary arts in Emmanuel High School. And they still just was like, you don't have adequate transportation. And the thing is, they get applications, thousands and thousands of applications a day. So for them, it's like, miss me, it's whatever. There's hundreds of you coming. And anyway. Yeah. Read your contracts, folks. Read them. Yep. Read those contracts. Dust James says, organize Disney. Yeah, I would love to see Disney to be all worker owned. Oh, that would be fantastic. Can you imagine Disney being worker owned? I'd be there to remember the magic. I would be there to remember the magic. Human Rights for All says, say it again, Jay. If you can't afford to pay humans a living wage, they shouldn't be in business. Yep, I agree. Dutch James says Disney still uses undocumented labor through contracts that take legal risks and treat people worse. DeSantis' law just pushed undocumented workers further in the shadows. Yeah, that's another thing. And this is going to increase the illegal things and work that happens within this state too, which I honestly do not want to see. And the problem is that, people are fleeing their country because of what our government is doing. And now they're going to be deeper in the shadows when they come here. It's just sad all around. I honestly just first of all, one things we need to do is stop sanctioning their countries and these blockades. And, we need to, end the war on drugs and all this other BS as well. But the problem is they don't want to do that because they know that that's going to be driving undocumented people here so that they can work and be exploited. So that's one of the first things that we should be doing. But of course, these the Democrats, the Republicans, and the corporate parasites do not want to do that because they want that exploitation to keep coming in. And then on top of that, the people who are here, we should, give them a path to citizenship, but at the same time, make it so that they aren't exploitable. If there's unions, they should, be free to go in a union without having to be retaliated against. And we should also, for anybody who's here, if we're giving, thousands of dollars, every 6 months to undocumented immigrants to have rent, then guess what? Everybody else who's at that same income level or lower, or people who are, working class, we should do the same thing for them too. Just, make it more equal across the board so that everybody has, a base, so that one person doesn't feel resentful of another group. Chris says, damn JB, that shouldn't have happened, but like anything, these corps are faceless and rough. Yeah. Dwayne says, we have a Holocaust in Gaza based on white supremacy. So I have no patience for white guys with their white male grievance about the woke. Yeah. I mean, the whole like woke thing, like complaining about that. It's like, tell me you're privileged, well, tell me you're privileged. It's like, who cared? Look, I'll be honest with you. With the beard I have, if I discovered that I wanted to wear a tight hot pink dress and strut my ass up and down the street, how is that making your life any worse? It's not. It's not. Like this whole thing about, oh my God, the woke. It's like, okay, so what? Like, how are they making your rent go up? How is wokeness making your life any worse when it comes to how much chicken costs? Does woke make chicken cost more? Is woke making your college debt higher? Is woke actually causing these wars that are happening abroad? Are they behind the military industrial complex making, money off of wars? Like, is woke the reason why we got homelessness up the yin yang? You know what I'm saying? Like, let's be 100. It's just an excuse. It's an excuse to have. I'm sorry. I'm going on a rant now, but it's an excuse to hate on people, man, that aren't even harming you. It's an excuse to go after people who ain't doing nothing to you. If somebody, feels that somehow in, their mind and heart that they are the gender that is that is different than what they present, and they want to change it, who is it hurting? It's not harming me. Or if somebody wants to wear blue hair, okay. I love that for us. Do you, boo-boo? Make sure you don't use any products that actually going to damage your hair, though. If you're going to have blue hair, make sure the hair is healthy. But that's it. People still focus on the culture war when in reality, they need to focus on the class war. And by class war, I'm also talking about the war that intersects class and identity together. How many people are actually talking about what's happening or will be happening to Marcellus Williams in less than 2 hours? Let's talk about that. Anyway, a non-user says the amount you're allowed to climb the capitalist ladder is relative to the amount you tether yourself to it. So much is given, much is required. Yeah. Yeah. Bryce says, I'm not interested in cultural war issues. Yeah. My thing is like, look, they're human beings. Let's treat them as such. Make sure they have dignified life. Right? If they're not harming anybody, all right, leave them alone. Let them do them. Right? All because you want to control, human beings' actions that don't harm another person. That's authoritarian. Get the fuck out of here. Oh, my goodness. Dwayne says, I called the Governor Parsons going to let that innocent man be murdered. White guys tell me racism doesn't exist. Look, baby, it exists. It exists on a very fundamental level. I'm getting sick and tired of this damn system. I can't wait till it's gone. Because the problem is that we live in a white supremacist system that actually ends up murdering also poor white people in the process too. Because I talk about Riker Earl on Sunday. Riker Earl was a white dude that his only crime was having a seizure, and he accidentally fell on a police officer, and the police officer ended up getting pissed at him. He got his tighty whities in a bunch, and he suffocated Riker Earl. Now, here's my question, right? For Riker Earl and Tony Timpa, who are white guys that were brutalized by the police, where is the people going out in the streets to protest against the murder of these two white guys? Riker Earl was a 26-year-old father. See, we talk about how police brutality affects black people, but can we talk about how police brutality affects white people? And I would love to see the Karens and the Susans out there. Now, granted, there have been some Karens and Susans out there for my people. I appreciate that. But we also got to talk about y'all coming out for your people too. Because the police, look, this affects all of us. Yes, it's focused on us, but you guys are getting in the crossfire too. If they do it to us, they're going to do it to you. Dwayne, you got me on a whole nother rant. Thank goodness I didn't drink anything, but appreciate it. But yeah, man, we got to focus on, what really matters, man. Chris says Marcellus Williams reminds me of Troy Davis case in Georgia years back. So sickening, where we see the evidence and yet nothing's done. Yeah, even the DA is like, yeah, we shouldn't be murdering this guy. He's innocent. Anywho, so I got to get going. I've been in this for over 3 hours. And I got some work to do as well. I got to do some clipping and stuff. But I thank you guys for tuning in. This Thursday on RBN is the roundtable. So we're going to be talking about that. That's going to be a good time for us. Also, next week, I have another guest. This guest is going to be another candidate running. I'm blanking on the name right now. Let me see. This is going to be October 1st. Yes, so October 1st, I'll be having on Ohio Senate candidate Tariq Shabazz. He is running for senator of Ohio. He's independent, but he was endorsed by the Ohio Green Party. So I'll be having on the independent Senate candidate coming on next week. So I hope you guys are able to tune in for that. Of course, I'll be clipping these so that you guys have these clips. The clip that I did about black men, that's doing pretty good numbers. So I wasn't expecting that, but I'm happy about that. So I actually, will try to do more stories regarding that so that, it gets out there, because a lot of these stories do not get covered. So yeah, I would like to do more of those. So yeah. And what else? Did I have anything else? I don't think so. But yeah, so keep in mind that if you have not registered to vote, if you do plan on voting, some places have same day registry, but others do not. So please make sure to check so that you can register if you plan on. If you don't plan on voting at all, then please plan on joining an organization so that you can do more work on the ground. I think that that's the best thing that you can do. That's the primary thing. Anything, whether you vote or not, join an organization, start doing work on the ground, either or. Okay? Please make sure to do that. And yeah. So I'm going to head out because my brother's hungry and I'm going to make a tuna fish sandwich. Oh, yeah. That's what's for dinner tonight. Anywho, look, like I always tell you guys. Oh, wait. Did I check? Okay, just checking to make sure that I didn't have any extra comments in Rockman, because I know I missed stuff. All right. So, anywho, thank you very much, Mr. Chester Todd, for joining me earlier today to have the conversation about his candidacy for Wisconsin. That was a great conversation. Can't wait to have him back on. Also, just let you guys know, please continue to fight and talk about a nationalized healthcare system or single-payer healthcare system to let people know that we can have better, especially for those of us that are Black and brown. We are, treated worse disproportionately in this system. A nationalized healthcare system or a single-payer healthcare system would help decrease that as well, so that we can actually get adequate healthcare that everybody should have the same level of healthcare. Should be platinum level healthcare for every single person in this nation. It should not be tied to how much your bank account is. So I think that we should focus on that. Also, solidarity with the workers at Disney Springs at Local 737. Guys, keep fighting, keep doing the damn thing. And you guys have people like me that are standing behind you. And I hope to be able to celebrate with you guys when you get that union and when you guys get the victories that you are owed. So thank you very much for that. Look, everybody, water your plants, water yourselves, leave the world better than you found it. Do all the things. If you got them, smoke them. If you got them, drink them. If you got them, if you ain't got them, then what you can do is you can watch something funny, because joy, yes, joy is revolutionary. I love you guys for watching. Please make sure to push me on reading my books, because that has fell by the wayside, but I'll be getting to that as soon as I possibly can. Been doing a lot of work lately, but please bear with me as I'm getting my bearings straight on this. Mwah, forehead kisses to every single one of you, and you back there too. I see you. I know you see with that smile on your face. You blushing because I kissed you on your forehead. Mwah, I'll do it again. I'll do it again, baby. I'll do it again. I see you tomorrow. Thank you so very much for watching my channel, and I deeply appreciate it from the top and bottom of my heart. If you wish to support the channel further, so I can keep bringing you content that is educational and informative, you can become a patron on patreon.com/Jaybefaunt. You can find that link in the pinned comment or in the description below. No matter what you give, you'll be supporting independent media and education that helps make the world better. Thank you so much, and you can watch more of my content here. Mwah. Forehead kisses, and have a beautiful day.